Pressure in March? Don't worry, I know. And so this is offer the mandala for the first one, and then when we go into the second one, you can flip your hands around and just do prayer for the second one, because then we're saying, because we're going for refuge. The first one we're offering this mandala, right? The second one we're going for refuge. Right?
For the second verse.
Yeah, you can cool it, burn. So how's everybody feeling doing this ACI 12 studying? Is this pretty wacky for, yeah? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you can take comfort in this. Hopefully you can. Every single person in this room, including yourself, would say could say the same, because there really isn't one course in this course where you're not just throwing yourself in the deep end, because the nature of the ideas, because the nature of the teachings are pretty radical in the sense that you have these teachings that were based on the teachings of a totally enlightened being, teaching methods for people to get their mind pure and get out of samsara. So everything, like, one of the qualities of a Buddhist text is that it must have these certain qualities, right? In order for them to even call it a Buddhist text, it has to serve the purpose of serving the goal, right? So even if you come in ACI 1 right away, you're going to hear stuff that's going to be trying to teach us how to create the opposite of what is samsara, which is what most people just take for granted as reality. And that is reality, and there's no other reality, and that's life. So no matter what course you come into, it's like, well, this is very opposite. Right from the start. So ACI 12 just happens to be one of the more intense ones of the most intense idea, the most slippery idea of all, which is emptiness. So, so we're on the subject of the two truths still. And tonight we're going to be talking about, because you remember last class we talked about there was the divisions of the schools. There was the 4 schools, and then the lower 3 schools, they were called, remember? The functionalists, right? Because they believe that if something functions, then it's real, right? Really real. This is, remember, right? That tricky thing, really real. Because things are real in that, this is a real bag of coffee, right? But it's not a real bag of coffee. Exclamation, quotation marks. Because it's not a bag of coffee from its own side, right? So, so tonight we're going to discuss the mind-only school. Their idea, not so much their idea, although we of course we will go into their idea, but their problem with the Majjhimika Prasangika view. So, because all these 18 courses that were put together by Geshe Roach and everyone else that helped, I think it was a vast team of people, it wasn't just him, but it's a middle way course. It's a Majjhimika Prasangika course. And that is supposed to be our position. So if I'm in class and I say, well, we think this or we think that, it's supposed to mean we as in Majjhimika Prasangika, we as in the highest school, which we're bravely saying that's our viewpoint, right? That's our philosophy, which doesn't mean that we understand it. It does not mean that. The only person that truly understands Majjhimika Prasangika would have to be an arhat. Would have to be someone who's seen it directly. Truly, but you can get a very, very fine understanding of it right up before that. And the reason why we're studying mind only tonight is because mind only is very close. Their ideas are very close to middle way, and their ideas function very well. But they have a problem with middle way's understanding of ultimate reality, and they're going to make their problems known to us. And we're going to have to try to logically prove to them why they're wrong and we're right. But since we're talking about the two realities, let's have a little debate about the two realities. We should look at that. Amanda's pretending to look away. She has other things she needs to think about. Go. Okay, I'll just throw it out there so anyone can decide. Let's consider the two truths. There's no other name for the two truths because the two truths are the two truths. If you're saying no, you can say if you disagree with me, then you can say no.
No.
Oh, so there is another name. There is another way of saying the two truths.
Yes.
You can't tell me what it is. Can't.
I can.
You can. So if I say you can't tell me, you say no.
No.
You can tell me.
Yes.
Sure. Which means give it to me. No, tell me. Sure. Say it.
Deceptive reality and ultimate reality.
Right. So whenever you hear the two truths, it also means the two realities, right? Deceptive reality and ultimate reality. Let's say no. Okay. So now I have to say right now I'm wearing a middle way hat. I'm not wearing a mind only hat, and I'm not wearing a functionalist hat. I'm wearing a Majjhimika Prasangika hat. So, according to Majjhimika Prasangika, let's consider ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is that ultimate reality means that someone is telling you the truth. No, that's not what it means. Ultimate reality means something else.
Yes.
Ultimate reality means that all things are ultimate.
No.
It's not what it means.
No.
Okay, well then ultimate reality must mean that there is a Buddha, because there's an ultimate being. There's a Buddha, there's an ultimate being. That means that's the definition of ultimate reality. Ultimate being.
No.
Oh, no, that's not the definition
No.
of ultimate reality.
No.
Ultimate reality means something else.
Yes.
You can't tell me.
I can.
Sure!
It means that everything in nothing has self-nature.
Okay.
It's not coming from its own side.
Right, so ultimate reality means that the truth that this object has ultimate reality in the fact that it's not whatever anybody sees it as from its own side.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Then I guess, so you're saying that are you trying to tell me that this has ultimate reality? Are you saying that there's ultimate reality here?
No.
What? It's not empty. Now you're saying you're going in circles now. It's not empty? There's no emptiness here.
There's two things.
Oh, okay. Let's consider something having two things. If something has two things, it can't also have one thing.
can have one.
Oh, it has one thing.
Yeah.
It has two one things.
Yeah.
So there's one thing.
It's deceptive in that it's not coming from the
What?
side.
I didn't say show.
Oh, sorry.
Are you trying to tell me that there is no ultimate reality in this bag? There's no ultimate reality here. This is not empty. This-
There is ultimate reality. No.
No. Okay. So this bag has ultimate reality.
Yes.
This bag is emptiness.
Yes.
Well, because this bag is emptiness, it can't not possibly also have deceptive reality. It can't be two things at the same time. That's ridiculous. You can't have deceptive reality. Come on. This can't be deceptive.
It is. Yes.
You say no.
No.
No?
No.
Are you really?
Really?
So you tell me this could have ultimate reality and deceptive reality at the same time? It can be two things at once?
Yes.
Oh my god. Well, I guess then, since you're so smart, you can't tell me what deceptive reality means.
Deceptive. Yes.
You can't.
Yes.
You can't. Oh,
No.
you can't. You can.
Yes.
Show!
The coffee bag
Is that what it is?
is only a coffee bag because I am throwing on coffee bag onto it.
Okay.
It's not really as it appears.
It's not.
That's the deceptive reality.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that it's illusory in the sense that even though it appears to be a coffee bag, it's not necessarily a coffee bag in a sense.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the deceptive reality of this so-called coffee bag.
Yes.
All right. You convinced me. Yeah. Good job. Yeah, so those are the two realities, right? And yes.
So what is the ultimate?
Well, Amanda just said it, and the ultimate reality of this bag is, according to Madhyamika Prasanga, according to the highest school, the ultimate reality of this bag is the fact of what isn't there, is the emptiness of the bag. Yeah, so emptiness is the fact that there is no, emptiness is always an absence of something. It's always a negative, right? It's an absence of something. It's why it's so tricky for the mind, which is like always kind of positively perceiving, to actually think of a negative thing. Because it looks like this bag is full of something. You look like it and it looks like, wow, it's full of coffee bag. It appears that way. But if we consider the fact that if I showed this bag to a different being, like a dog, for instance, right? Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's do it this way. This will be a nice way to do it. Let's use a different object so that it's a little easier. Let's use this. Let's use this. Okay. The beauty of this truth is that it applies to everything. So if it can apply to the coffee bag, it can also apply to this. Okay. So look at this object. I'm going to say look at this pen. Okay. And when you just look at it and don't try and consider the ultimate reality of the pen. Just look at it and see, okay, pen. I'm like, okay, no problem. That's a pen. It's easy to see it as a pen. Now, pretend that you don't know what a pen is. Pretend that you've never seen a pen before, and that maybe this would appear to you as a black and white stick, right? So, change your mind for a second. Pretend that you don't know what a pen is, and look at this object, and try and see it as a black and white stick. You can do that, right? You can imagine that it's appearing as a black and white stick. Now go back to seeing it as a pen again. The pen that it looks so much like it is. if this pen didn't have ultimate reality, if this pen didn't have emptiness, it would have to have pen in the object. So you wouldn't be able to switch in your mind. You could only see pen. You would look at this and you could only see pen. You'd be like, well, John, I'm trying to see a stick, but I can't, because all I can see is a pen, because that's what it is a pen. So the emptiness of the pen is the fact that it is empty of pen. Pen is not there. Pen is somewhere else, right? Pen is in your mind sphere. There's something in your mind. There is a karma. You have a karma to perceive a pen. So the pen is there before. Because our eyes cannot actually see a pen. Your eyes can only see shapes and colors. It's the mind that adds pen to the situation. So every object in the universe, according to Madhyamika Samhita, has that quality of depending upon your perception of it in order for it to be what it is. And so the emptiness of it is the thing that is not there, and it's always a negative. And every school has their own what's not there, or what it couldn't be, right? So, having said all that, if I pull this up, now you tell me what the emptiness of the bag is. And emptiness and ultimate reality are the same thing. They're just another way of saying the same thing. So what would you say the emptiness of this bag is? I shouldn't even say bag. What's the emptiness of this object?
So the way, just back up for a second, the way
Yeah.
I kind of, with the parallel in my head is, you're looking at the night sky and you see stars.
Yeah.
So you see stars, but then you can see constellations going from celebrity.
Yeah.
What you saying?
Well, what I'm saying is, you look up there and you see stars. But you see stars. Someone else could look up there and see something else completely different, right?
Is it just atoms? Am I looking at atoms, molecules?
What you're looking at is what your mind is telling you you're looking at, right? So, because we can go all the way down the rabbit hole, we don't really have to. Because we can say, okay, we could say, you're looking at atoms and molecules. We could say, you're looking at raw data. You're looking at shapes and colors, rectangular, black thing, right? And even the term rectangular is still a concept. And so if I put this bag down here and an ant walked up to it, right, it would still see like the data, the same data, but its mind would be perceiving something else completely different. Just like the stars, whether they're made up of atoms or not, the mind still must construct it in its mind and call that, okay, those are stars. Like that. So it's the lack. If you talk about stars, it's the lack of the lack of there being stars from their own side. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's slippery. It's really slippery. Because things just don't look that way, and we don't think like that. We don't. Yes, Mark.
So, your ultimate reality truth, I wrote, the emptiness of an object, and every object in the universe has its own emptiness.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
And then, let's just look at what he said, that perceptive reality it is only true to a deceived mind, which is
independent, independent of mental.
Interdependent of our mental projections.
Well, they are interdependent. So if the illusion would be, the illusion would be that they're not interdependent.
They're not.
That's the illusion, right? The illusion, the reason why it's called deceptive reality is because it's illusory in the sense that it appears, it looks like it doesn't need us to exist. It looks like we are not, it looks like you are not required in the equation. And that's why it's deceptive. It's not like a reality that's deceptive from its own side. It's just the mind that's deceived. Right? So what you wrote down there is right. Just at the end, it sounded like you were saying kind of the opposite. Like you wrote too many things and you should stop.
Okay. One quick question. How many schools are there?
4.
There's
Don't worry
four
about it, Marge.
schools. Okay.
There's 4 schools, and it's a subject that gets covered slowly but surely over all the courses, and I can honestly say that myself, even I've done these courses, and I'm still trying to get my head around what they all are. And mainly, I was thinking about this, talking to another student, was the reason why it's so difficult for us to understand all the other schools is because we know Madhyamika Prasangika so well. We come in and we study middle way from the start, and we're all middle way, and then we start getting introduced to these other ideas, and it's harder for us to understand them because we're so clear on middle way, hopefully. So nice. So that's, I think it sounds like everybody has a pretty clear idea of deceptive reality and ultimate reality, according to middle way. And of course, the big deal being that somehow or other, in your spiritual progress, you must get yourself into the position of seeing ultimate reality directly in order to truly then break the chain of pain, as Lenin says, break the chain of pain, break samsara. Because until you see that, until you see emptiness directly, it's all an intellectual understanding, and it's all like a logical understanding. And you've been taught so many ways, and you see, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, a dog sees that as differently. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you try to apply it to people in your world. You see, yeah, they cannot be self-existent. There's something in their mind first, and that will take you a long way, and that can even make you start keeping your morality, because then you understand that your actions are causing you to have karma that's going to make you perceive either positive or negative things. But things still look very, very much like they're self-existent. But when you see emptiness directly, you really, really know that is the truth. Like it's different. It's different when you really, really know. And that puts you in the game of actually then getting rid of all your other mental afflictions. Like anger and jealousy and all those things. Because everything that, all suffering is created by the inability to understand that things are coming from us and not at us. We do all kinds of non-virtues to try and get the things that we think we need, or get away from the things that we think that will keep us safe, when really it's our karma. Another nice way of looking at ultimate reality and deceptive reality is this. Another way of thinking of the ultimate reality of this bag is that it's the emptiness of the bag, but you could also think of it like the way that I'm seeing this bag is being forced upon me by my karma. That's kind of it's not saying emptiness, but it can only be true because of emptiness. And another way of saying deceptive reality is it looks like this bag is here independent of my karma. It looks like this bag is here and it's not my karma forcing me to see it. And that's another way of saying it's illusory, because it is your karma that's making you see this bag just the way that you see this bag. Right?
Everything will be the same.
No.
We all see the same.
No, we don't all see the same bag. I can guarantee you that my opinion of this bag is different than yours. Yeah. Like this is gonna like bring on salivating, or it's gonna make you think like sleepless nights, or right? Or you're gonna think like, what the heck is that brand? Or you're gonna think, oh, that brand, I like that brand, right? Or like, and not only that, every single person is seeing a different bag in the shape that like the way that it's appearing to them. So, no, there is no one person that has the same karma as another person, or else they would be living the exact same reality. It's the same with the words that I'm saying. It gets really, really crazy. Because sound is also void of having self-existence. So that's why I could be speaking and there's just sound coming out of my mouth. There's syllables, there's consonants, hopefully. And your karma is going to force you to interpret that as something that's exciting, something that's either hard to understand, something that's easy to understand, something that's boring, something that's when's he going to stop. And every single person is going to hear something different. Actually, a sign of a person who is a natural Madhyamika Prasangika student is when you start hearing things like the pen, you start going, ooh. You go, whoa, tell me more. Right? That's a sign you have the certain seeds, right? If you don't have those seeds, you're like, whatever, dude, right? So it's forced upon you by your karma. There's got to be something about it that keeps you coming here. Something. There's a certain kind of karma that you have, right? So before we get into this dispute between mind only and Madhyamika, we have to remember that all these teachings are based on the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, who became enlightened, right? And he taught everything. He taught all four schools. He taught mind only. He taught middle way. He taught the Sutra school. He taught the Abhidharma. He taught all of it. It just so happens that each one is in succession a little bit more complete until finally you have the complete understanding of what emptiness is or what ultimate reality is. So sometimes we can get into this thing. I think because we're prideful. We're like, yeah, well, I'm middle ways, mind only people. What's wrong with those people, right? When really, Lord Buddha taught them all for a very specific reason. Well, for one of the reasons why is because a totally enlightened being, their consciousness is not trapped by time or space. So an enlightened being can see that, well, there's going to be some people sitting in 3 tools in this place called Vancouver in 2014, and they're going to need to understand emptiness. So I better teach 4 schools so that they have some more ideas about emptiness. I better teach 4 schools so that they can understand it clearly. So it's like it's a being with ultimate skillful means, where this being knows perfectly the capacity of beings, and knows that, okay, I should just present this idea, and this is enough for them. So that when they understand that, then that won't be enough for them eventually, and then what will be ready for them is the next understanding. And so he taught it all. So everything we're saying here was taught by one being. And he even went back and said, yeah, you middle way people, you're wrong. He even went back on himself and said those kinds of things so that people would eventually gain the perfect understanding. And it all boils down to what all the schools' version of emptiness is and what their version of dependent origination is. So now we need to talk about the definition of illusion. And we have been talking about it. So say Gyuma. Gyuma, that's Tibetan, which is also Maya, right, in Sanskrit? Maya. So Gyuma means illusion. So what does illusion mean in Buddhism? What is illusion? And maybe we might as well do some Tibetan. Say Nangzu,
Nangsu,
Dangne,
Dangne,
Sul Mitumba.
Sulumatuma.
So Nan means appear. And Sul, you say Nansul. Nansul means the way something appears. The way something appears. And Dang means and Ne means to exist or to be or really is. And Mitumba means inconsistent. So illusion simply means the way it appears to you and the way it really is inconsistent with each other. The way it appears to you and the way that it really is inconsistent. They're not the same. And that's all that illusion means. The way it appears to you and the way it really is are not the same. Right? So the way the pen looks like it's coming from its own side, but it really it's an illusion because it's not coming from its own side, even though it looks like it is. That's simply what it means to be illusion. And remember we talked last class about there's this moment that happens in your existence where right before you see emptiness directly, you actually see yourself seeing the illusion directly. Remember that? Right? Well, that's like, they call that seeing the supreme object. And, you know, you've done all your work and all your studies and all your meditation and you've been contemplating emptiness over and over and over. And then, you know, like, this pen appears to you like normally, and then all of a sudden, your mind changes, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm just looking at a cylindrical shape, and it's got some black, it's got some white, and then you realize, well, I can't be looking at a pen. It couldn't be a pen from its own side, and you realize, well, actually, I can't see the back of it. I don't even really know that it's round. I'm imputing that. I mean, my eyes can only see. I don't even really know if it doesn't go 10 miles that way. It could be like but our mind is creating the whole thing. And you catch yourself with another pen that's in your mind. And you're looking at this object that's just shapes and colors, and you realize that that's all I've ever been looking at has been shapes and colors. And that's all the way it's ever been. And there's this little pen in my mind that goes choo and comes out and throws itself on the pen. And that's the pen I'm seeing. I'm seeing the pen that's in my mind. And that's what's got to happen. You have to catch yourself in the act. And that's the meaning of dependent origination. When you see dependent origination directly. And that's like the opposite of illusion. Because you see it for what it really is. See, when it's an illusion, you don't know that. When it's an illusion, it's illusory when you're like, oh, there's a pen. Everyone sees it as a pen. It's obviously a pen. But when you know that it's shapes and colors and your mind is going, mine is going pen, then that's the way it really is. And it's no longer an illusion. 5 minutes before that, it was an illusion. Then it's not an illusion anymore. But then it goes back to being an illusion after you see emptiness. But you just don't believe it anymore. Because you can't walk around trying to drive your car with seeing dependent origination directly all the time. You get into an accident thing. Right? But an Arya knows that everything that he or she is seeing is being forced upon them by their karma, the way they see it. But the actual textual, more profound meaning of illusion is the period of time directly after the direct perception of emptiness and the years following. Because once you see emptiness directly, when you come down from that experience, you have the direct knowing that you never had a correct perception about any one single thing your whole life. And then finally, you saw dependent origination directly, you went into seeing emptiness, you come back down, and things begin to reappear to you just like they always did. But your mind now knows better. So now your mind is living the illusion. That's the ultimate meaning of illusion, is the Arya who walks around knowing like it's a weird time, because you things look like they're coming from the inside, but you know you're crazy. You know that it's not like that. And so then you are living the ultimate meaning of illusion. So that's not in your homework, but yes.
How achievable is this?
For someone like you? Well, do you for someone like you? Well, see, now that's a tricky question, isn't it? It's totally attainable. It's just going to take work.
In this lifetime?
You can do it in this lifetime, but in order to do it in this lifetime, see, I don't know your living habits, and I don't know. You see, if I'm not a Buddha, I don't really know if you're not like some enlightened being sitting here going, well, just for the benefit of everybody else, is it possible for someone like me? Let's pull this question out. Right? You could be doing that. I don't really know. And that's what they always say. Anyways, to answer your question, to put you in the running for this kind of experience, a person needs to be meditating daily. A person needs to have a meditation practice, because I didn't talk about this last class. You have to reach your mind has to be able to reach a very still point, very, very still point, and which basically means able to focus on your object of choosing for pretty much as long as you decide, without being distracted. And you also must be studying these kinds of things, because you're not going to see emptiness directly without analysis. You can get a very still mind, and you can get all blissed out in this still place, and you're like, wow, this is really cool. I'm not having any mental functions right now. But if you're not analyzing the nature of how reality is appearing, then you're wasting your stillness, because the power of your stillness needs to be brought to bear upon these things that we're talking about. So so that while you're still, you're contemplating the coffee bag or the pen, you're going over and over in your mind, and then the stillness of your mind pierces the veil and convinces itself enough for you to put yourself into that position. It takes, Geshe-mata Roach has said that you need to be able to meditate for about an hour. No problem. I don't think that is necessarily true, and I'll tell you why. Because I've seen all kinds of meditators, and I've been around all kinds of meditations, and you can get very profound results doing shorter meditations. But the point is that you stay on object, that you keep returning and returning. And also because Geshe-mata Roach now is going back on that and saying, he's encouraging people to shorten their meditations so they're not so distracted. Because it's worse for you to have like this zone out meditation for half an hour than it is for you to do 10 minutes of focus and stop. But having said that, in order to reach this form realm platform that you need to go to, which is a place that you go with your mind where you're not aware of your body, you're not aware of your senses, your sense of desire are no longer a compute for you in that state. You probably are going to be meditating for about an hour by that time, because the more that your meditative skill increases, the easier it is for you to stay longer, and the more you want to stay longer because you're in bliss. And then you're just like, you can meditate for an hour, and it's not like an hour. You know, it'd be like, oh, maybe you'll set your alarm for an hour, and you're like, oh, an hour? How'd that happen? I want to do some more. So, you have to have that kind of thing going on. It also takes a lot of virtue. So it takes kindness. You have to be like kind to people. You have to try and help people understand what they want to know. If someone comes to you and they need some understanding, help them understand what, try and help people in any way that you can. You have to be not harming people. You have to be not stealing. Like you have to be really, really watching your mind in that way. Being very moral. And you also need a teacher. You need someone who can teach you these things, someone you can ask questions to, hopefully someone who's seen it themselves. And someone who can constantly remind you that things are not as they appear. So that when you're meditating, that becomes an automatic thing. So can you do it? Yes, you can. Will it take work? You bet it will. It might take you 10 years of practice. It might take you 20 years of practice. It might take you 6 months of practice. It depends on how hard you hit it, and it depends on your karma that you have. You came in this lifetime with a whole set of seeds that, for one thing, put you into this class, put you here. Like that's not an accident. So, but no matter how long it takes, if it takes 50 years, it was worth every second. Because there ain't nothing that can compare to it. Nothing in this world that you can be offered. No amount of money. No amount of money. No millions, no billions can be offered to you that can compare to that one pivotal moment in beings. Nothing. So, yeah, you can do it. Well, you'll have to decide that for yourself. One of the things about people that are seen intimates is they don't go around saying they're seen intimates. Because because it can't be proven. Right? Yeah, you'll have to decide that for yourself. It's a good question though. You should be asking that question. I'm trying to figure out. You gonna say something? Yeah. Because The illusion of thinking that it doesn't come from your karma. Like another way of looking at that is like, say, a pen, right? A pen is a kind of a nice example of like whether you're having good karma or bad karma. Because you get a pen, some pens you get, they feel great in your hand, right? Oh, this. Other pens you're like, I like the weight of it. Right? And it's like, our karma is such that, your karma is such that whatever you plant, right? When you plant a seed, you're going to get a positive or a neutral or a negative result, depending on whether you planted good karma, neutral karma, or positive karma. So, because we've planted so many of these three kinds, positive, neutral, negative karma, all the time for many lifetimes, wherever we go, if you're a normal person, generally speaking, you're going to find someone you like, someone you don't like, and someone you don't really think too much about. And it's the same as like a class, or these words I'm saying. Whatever karma you've got, it's like really good or not so good or neutral or. And because it's always going off like that in our minds, and we don't understand that, you know, we're in a work situation or whatever, and it's like, well, I got to get out of this place because I'm seeing too many people I don't like. And then guess where those people are coming from? And we're like, okay, yeah, I'll give my 2 weeks notice, search for a job, go to the next place. Well, guess what's in your mind? Guess what came with you? Well, it might take a little while, but all of a sudden you're like, hey, there's people I don't like here too. You know, they may look differently, they may be doing different things. So, you know, a nice way to look at it too is like, I guess my Roach's analogy is he uses airplanes on a runway. So you've got, you know, a sea of planes in the airport, and you've got white planes and you've got black planes. And the white planes that are taking off are your virtue ripening. Right? So it's like the white planes going up, and they're always like getting in line, right? You've got a bunch of white ones, and then maybe the black one comes and it takes off, and then you have like a negative experience. And one can follow right after the other. So say you've got like 10 white planes that take off in your mind stream, and you get this pen, and it's like writing for you. It's like, wow, this is a really nice pen, but cool. All of a sudden you start running out of ink, and you're like, ugh, and you just like throw the pen. Right? It's like, well, there was some nice planes going off for a while there, and then there was a black one coming, right? And there was a black one, pen ran out of ink, right? And the illusion is thinking that the pen ran out of ink and your karma didn't run. See, where's my pen? I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Right? This is what, because we put it all on the object, right? It's not. It's your karma. You know, kick yourself in the bum. Don't throw yourself across the room. Right? Leave the poor pen alone.
Yell at yourself.
Yell at yourself. It's like, you know, like you're writing and it runs out and you go, well, didn't give enough pens away. Right? Didn't get enough pens away. Or whatever it might be. Someone wanted some photocopies and I didn't give it to them. Right? Whatever it may be, but you ran out of a way to write. You know, ink runs out on the computer. I don't know about you guys, but I've had ink cartridges that last a really long time. And others, they seem to dry up in 3 seconds. You're like, what a ripoff. No, your karma dried up. So, the lower schools say, if something functions, it's real. Middle way says, no. It functions because it's not real. Right? Why middle way calls it unreal, and why they're saying it's real are two different things. Right? Like, because the lower schools are saying this pen is real because it functions as a pen. Middle way is saying this pen functions because of your karma. The functioning of it is coming from your karma. They're saying, no. This pen was made in a factory. That's why it works. And they're, well, That's not true. It would work for everybody then. The same way. You know, if you become very, very familiar with this idea, then you become like, once it becomes very clear to you that this must be true, then you become very interested in planting the seeds that will force you then to perceive a paradise, an enlightened paradise, right? Because if you don't plant it, it won't grow. There's no way for it to come into being. If you don't, like, you won't see emptiness if you don't put into causes, put into place the causes for it to be, for it to happen for you. And nor will your enlightened body. Right? If you don't put the causes into place to have a different kind of body, then you'll just continue to have a suffering kind of body that will always get sick and die. You have to have another one, until you figure it out. Okay. We got it quick now. So the mind-only school, say, Tsansang?
Samsung.
That means mind only. So I'm going to just say briefly why they call themselves mind only. They don't really believe the whole world is your mind. It sounds like they do, but they don't. Mind only believes that the fact that we're all sitting here, let's use this glass of water. So, mind only says that the fact that I exist in this moment, that my mind exists, and that I'm perceiving this glass of water, that my eyeball is perceiving a glass of water, is one karmic seed. That the whole fact that I actually perceive myself having an eyeball, and my eye consciousness is looking at this object and calling it a glass of water, is coming from one karmic seed. Even the fact that I can see, right? The fact that I can see itself is also a nice karma. It's a virtue to be able to see. I could go blind any second. My karma, that karma could run out, and I could, no longer see. Yeah, and if you have a normal body, one day that will happen. You will lose the karma of being able to see the way you see. So the fact that I have an eyeball that's picking up colors and shapes, and I can be aware of colors and shapes, and my perception of this glass being here is one seed popping. One seed. Like sometimes they put it like one seed like splitting. You see, like there's the object and the perceiver and the perceived. One seed. That's very basic explanation of it, and we're not going to dive really into mind only yet in this class, but we sort of are. It's like the karmic seed that created my eye and the karmic seed that created the table are the same seed. They're one thing, one substance, one seed. That's mind only's idea. Okay. So is the table my mind? No. The table is not my mind. Is it an extension of my mind? In a way. Sort of. One way that you can think of mind only, this is kind of an aside, but Jason Humber wrote this in one of his books, I don't know what it's called, but that world is created by mainly mind only. In other words, your karma. Because before you commit a karma, there's the thought first, which comes from your mind, which then creates the karma, which then creates your whole reality. That's another understanding of mind only, and that was mainly used to refute the idea of a creator God, that there could be an unchanging, omnipotent creator God that's actually constantly, somehow, unchangingly creating reality all the time. But that's just, it's not really part of this class, but I'm just going to say that. So they're going to complain. See, to Majjhimika, because according to Majjhimika, Prasangika, Majjhimika, middle way, everything is illusory, right? But to mind only, there is something that isn't illusory. And they're gonna, because anyone below the middle way, if it's illusory, it's not real, it doesn't exist. The middle way is saying, no, it exists because it's illusory. It's a fine line. And mind only and middle way, they rub shoulders, and it's very close to being very close to being the same thing. So remember, mind only, they don't like the fact that if it's illusory, that it could function. They're saying, no, it can't function. So here, then they say to middle way, they say, okay, middle way. They say, can you see the illusion? Right? Can you see the pen? Can you see that the pen is really just colors and shapes? Is it possible to see that illusion? And what does middle way say about it? We just talked about it. Is it possible to see the illusion of the pen? Yes, it is, absolutely. Yes, we're saying, we, middle way, say, yeah, we can. And they say, no, you can't. Because it has no nature of its own. So you can't be seeing it. It's not real. Concept? Well, concept fits in very nicely, in fact, because this pen is a concept of the pen. It's your mind is throwing the concept of pen onto this shapes and colors, we call it. So, conceptual. So according to middle way, everything in normal reality, in deceptive reality, is illusory. It looks one way, but it's not. So it's an illusion. What about the mind that sees the illusion? Is that also illusion? Yeah, what's that? To middle way. Right? To middle, so they're saying everything in existence is illusory. It looks like it's self-existent, but it's not. Mind only says, well, can you guys see this illusion? And middle way's like, yeah, we can see it. We can see it. We see dependent origination. We see ourselves, and they're saying, but what about the mind? How can you see it? What about they're saying, no, you can't. You can't see that. It's illusory, so you can't see it. It's not real. It's not. You can't be seeing it. What about the mind that sees that illusion? This is getting tricky, right? Because even the mind that sees the illusion is also illusory. There's no self-existent nature to your mind either. Right? Even your understanding of the illusion of this pen is illusory. Because if it wasn't illusory, then it would have to exist from its own side in the way that everyone would have to have the same understanding. There could be not a lower or a medium or a higher understanding. I could say this pen is empty of self-nature because a dog sees it as a chew toy, and everyone will go, correct. Right? But no, some people go, right? And some people go, yeah, tell me more. And some people, right? It's the understanding itself and the mind's capacity and the deepness of the mind's capacity to understand it is also not self-existent. It's dependent upon your karma. If you have the karma to understand it, you're going to understand it very clearly. If you don't, you absolutely can't in that moment. Why is my mind illusory? Why is my mind also part of deceptive reality? Because it's not ultimate reality. My mind is not emptiness. If my mind was emptiness, well then I would have been a Buddha a long time ago. Because I'm aware of my mind. The mind is not emptiness. We have these crazy ideas about emptiness. Emptiness is not something. Right? My mind is also in the group of things that are illusory. There's only one thing about me that's not illusory, and that is my emptiness. There's only one thing about me that's not illusory. Everything looks like it's coming from its own side, but it's not really from its own side. So this is their thing. They don't like this thing. They're like, okay, think about your understanding of it. Is that an illusion? And we're like, well, yeah, it's illusory. Well, then it doesn't exist. It's not real. It doesn't function. It's illusory. And we're like, well, it has to be illusory because it depends on your karma. The illusion is that you think it's not your karma. That's why it's an illusion. Because it is your karma and you think it isn't your karma. You have this thing like, yeah, you know, if I just really listen hard, if I just do my homework perfectly, it's not like that. If you have the karma to do your homework perfectly, that's one thing. But if you then also have the karma to understand the ideas, trust me, I've been looking at these binders for years. And when I pick up the binder to ACI 1, it does not look like it did when I first opened it. And it's the same words. Yeah. No. Emptiness is not consciousness. Consciousness is empty. Spirit is also empty. A lack of something. Void. There is no positive holy things. That's why it's so slippery. So, you know, and then they say, okay, well, what about your understanding of emptiness? Is that illusory too? And we're like, yeah, it's an illusion. It's like everything else. And then they say, well, then there's no illusion. Because they can't see the mind only can't see any illusion. Because they think if something is like an illusion, it can't be true and it can't work. Because they say if something works, it's for real. And that's the whole debate. And then so Majjhimika responds to this, okay, Mr. Mind Only, do you understand what illusion means? Right? And what does Mind Only have to say? Let's say Mishi's wearing a Mind Only hat. And I'm like, Mr. Mukherjee. Okay, you know, Miss Mind Only. Do you have an illusion?
Yes.
You do have an illusion. Oh, well, tell me about this illusion that you have. Do you have in your philosophy system? What's your illusion?
My illusion
Tell me.
it's that things depend on their parts.
Oh, mind only professional. So you're saying to me that things depend on their parts, even though that's a Svatantrika idea?
Oh, so mine only is not
Svatantrika.
Svatantrika? It's not lower
Okay.
middle way.
Let's start again.
She just like,
Okay.
mind only is not slash tantra lower middle way. Mind only is functionalist.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay.
Okay.
Here, I'm gonna try it. Anyone else want to? Is anyone else? Okay. Going based on what I've just said, based on what I've said so far in class, that the illusion for middle way is that when you look at an object, it appears that the object is coming from its own side. It appears that it's not being forced upon you by your karma, but it is being forced upon you. It is illusory in that way. That's their illusion. Everything is like that. Mind only says everything is appearing when I sit here and the karmic seed that is making me have an eyeball and be able to see the table is one seed. What's their illusion? Their illusion?
Dreams.
No.
No?
Their illusion would be that it doesn't look like that.
Oh.
It doesn't look like that. It doesn't seem like my eye. Right. I'm just like take it all for granted. I just look at the table and go, wait, there's a table there. Mind only is going, but you don't realize that what's happening is you have a seed that's ripening into your eyeball and the table. And that's all happening at once. It's one seed. Right? So it's illusory. It's illusory. Right? That's their illusion. It's very close to Majjhimika. What's that?
So then it can't function?
Well,
If it's an illusion?
well, this is the thing, right? We're going to turn it on upon themselves, right? This is why Majjhimika is about to kick their asses. Yeah.
So they're saying it's one seed, like say
Yeah.
splitting, that
Yeah.
allows them to have an eyeball and see a table.
Yeah.
So that's like two things coming together, right?
Yeah, so well, one thing's splitting into two.
One thing splitting into two, but we're saying that we have a seed that's allowing us to be able to see, and then we have a seed that's allowing us to look at a table and see it as a table.
Yeah, we're going to get into this in a minute, but we're saying it's not like that. That they can't be the same seed.
No, different seeds.
But
mixed.
different. You'll see in a way how the mind only idea is actually quite good. It's quite good to think that, because because it has to come back towards my karma, forcing me to have an eyeball. But they're saying, and we'll get to what they mean in a second. Why middle way doesn't agree with them. Okay. So yeah, the middle way says, yeah, well, that's our illusion, that it looks another way than it really is. And then, so now Majjhimika says, well, I guess you can never see the illusion then. You told us the same thing. You're as crazy as we are. I guess you can't see the illusion. And then, mind only is like, well, why do you say that? Because you complain, mind only, you complain about us that when we're looking at our illusion, the mind itself must not exist because the illusion does not exist. You're being beaten by your own idea, by your own complaint to us about something being illusory and not being able to function. Your illusion, how can that function? It doesn't exist either. Because you can't have a subject mind without an object. You see, I'm going to just jump ahead a little bit. This is where the trouble starts with mind only, or is mainly. Because notice middle way said, no, it's all illusory. Even the mind that is perceiving the illusion is also illusory. So see, to mind only, the mind is not an illusion. The mind is real. The mind functions, so therefore it's real. And Majjhimika's like, no, it's not real. Real. Really real. It exists, but it's not real. It's illusion. And they're going to contest this subject-mind thing a little bit later, but mind only anyways. But one of the main principles of Buddhism is there's no pen without the perception of the pen. Right? There's no pen that can't be a perception of a pen. That's the middle way. But you can't experience your mind, you can't have a subject state of mind without an object. The only way that you can sort of have this experience is if there's two things going on. If there's no if there's nothing to perceive, then what? Right? So then the middle way says to them, because they're saying, well, no, it's illusory. That it's illusory because you don't realize that this one seed going off and the table, and me seeing the table as one seed. You don't know that. You don't know that. That's our illusion. And middle way says, well, I guess you can't see the table then. You can't see the table. And my mind is like, why are you saying that now? Hey, they're desperate, right? Because the cue's not there the way you thought it was, and you're the one that's telling us that if it's illusory, that it doesn't exist, it's not real. But you yourself are saying it's illusory. So, and my only like, well, what's that got to do with it? If there's no object, there can be no subject.
Who's saying that?
Majjhimika Prasamika,
Yeah.
right? Same as you said to us. You guys are as crazy as we are. That's how Majjhimika fights them. Because what does Majjhimika really say about an illusion, right? Does a movie function? Does a movie function? Can you watch a movie?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Can you enjoy a movie? Sit back, eat some popcorn? Corn kills music. Right? It entertains you. But is it real? Is the movie real? Doesn't mean you can't watch it. Right? It's real until what? Until you take the thing out of the spool and start looking at the, right? This is not real. What is real? The real? That's not real either, according to Majjhimika Prasamika. Do illusions function? Do illusions function? You see, this is the boundary. This is the heart. Do illusions function?
Which school?
Middle way. Yes, of course they function. You know, I can drink this illusory tea and enjoy it. If I had different karma, I would drink that illusory tea and think it was really gross. Or I'd choke. Would go down the wrong pipe. Did that ever happen to you? Drown on tea.
So for Majjhimika Prasamika, real is ultimate. So the only real thing is something that is a lack of something?
Yeah, like there is no real thing. There is no real thing.
The only real
But
thing is
the
lack
only
of.
real thing is, right, is that true. The real thing is the fact that your karma is making you see this the way you see it. That's the real thing.
Whereas in
Real
mind
thing.
only,
What's
the
that?
real thing, whereas in mind only,
Illusion
real
can
thing.
function.
the real thing is the mind.
Yeah. The mind,
Because it functions.
which we're going to get to in a second, 'cause they have this crazy idea about what the mind is and how it can do that, right? So so far, all that's happened so far is mind only said, you know, this big thing you guys are doing with this illusion can't be real, so it can't function. It can't exist. And middle way comes back and says, what do you mean? You say the same thing. That's as far as it's gotten. So there hasn't been any like winner or loser yet. Because according to mind only, what would dependent origination be, right? That the table and my eyes come from the same seed. That's dependent origination. For them. What would emptiness be for them? Nothing is any other way.
It's all coming from
Yeah, and nothing exists any other way. Right? Double negative. Right? Emptiness is always negative. So it's subtle. What's wrong with that idea, though? Nothing's wrong with that idea, really. Like, there's nothing really wrong with thinking that you're being forced by one seed to have this perception, because that would still make you think, well, I better watch my morality, right? I better plant the right seeds. In order to have this one seed go off as go to paradise, or this one seed go off as me seeing the illusion, right? So, but, so don't think it's a silly idea. It's a great idea. The whole problem of the mind-only presentation is that they believe that the seeds themselves and the mind is self-existent. So you can believe that the seeds themselves and the mind is self-existent, and you can go around thinking that the seeds themselves and the mind is self-existent, and go along a merry way and plant the right virtue to get yourself to a nice place. But the problem with it ends up being that it's going to have to fall short, because if your mind is self-existent, how are you going to change your mind? How are you going to have the omniscient mind? How are you going to have the mind? See, it's crazy. If your mind was self-existent, the way which middle way negates, how could you ever have a different idea? How could your mind ever change into the mind of an enlightened being, right? But they haven't given them that volley yet. And they probably don't in this class. But, and that's not why we're here tonight. But that's the main, that's the whole problem of the mind-only presentation. So, but now they're saying, but in the mind-only school, if the mind-only school is complaining to Madhyamika, saying, you can't be seeing the illusion, because you're saying the whole thing's illusory, so it can't actually be happening, it can't be functioning. But then in the mind-only school, then how are they going to catch themselves seeing the illusion? And this is a thing called Rang-Rik. Rang-Rik. So Rang means myself, or self, and Rik means to know. So, according to mind only, they're going to get to the point, right? How do you have the state of mind that was watching the mind? How do you have a state of mind? Right? Middle way, after countless lifetimes, you caught yourself in the act of creating the illusion in your mind. You're about to see emptiness forever. Middle way is like, how do you do that if the mind itself was an illusion? How can a screwy state of mind catch a screwy state of affairs? Like, how is that possible? So then we say to mind only, okay, mind only, how are you going to catch your illusion? Can you catch your illusion? Mind only? And they say, yeah, we got something.
another seed.
So we got Ryan Rick. He's in the corner. He's a secret weapon, Ryan Rick. The mind sees itself. Right? The mind watches itself. Self-awareness. Right? They say, well, for example, when I'm looking at this cup of water, there's a part of my mind that's watching myself watch the cup of water. Half my mind is perceiving water, cup of water. Half my mind is perceiving my own mind. So that second part of the Amanda's going to vomit. Or punch me, I don't know what it's right? So they say, very conveniently, oh no problem, my mind splits into two parts. And we say, well, prove it to us. Prove it to us, mind only. I can remember myself looking at the water. You must have been aware of yourself watching the water, because the next morning you remember, yeah, I saw the water. Is this true? No, it can't. But could be. Sounds a little bit like it could be true, right? It's very. It sounds like there's a lot of Western, like in North America, that this apperception, this whole thing is like. They believe that there's a little part of your mind that's watching your mind. And that present moment of mind is like happening at this very same time that you're looking at the cup. And it's separate. Yeah.
I was just making a parallel with the enchanter when we had the lecture, you know,
Mhm.
some of the meditation we've done and you kind of sit back and you can kind of do a 360 and
Mhm.
see yourself thinking something or going over or something.
Right.
But that's different because the last one you said was all the time. The split mind that's always looking.
They're
Always
saying
watching.
that that's always there,
Right.
right? And middle way is saying that's never there. Never. Because, and we're going to get to this. How can the mind see itself? See, according to Majjhimika Prasanaka and according to the Lord Buddha, the mind cannot actually ever see two things at the same time. It just appears like it is. So even in your meditation, when you're like reaching this water state and you're actually watching the creative contents, you're not actually looking at your mind and something else at the same time. It just appears that. It's like, it's a great analogy. You're actually toggling back and forth, but so rapidly that it appears seamless. One of my favorite analogies of this is, even though it appears like you're seeing like one thing, it's like if you stacked a stack of 20 rose petals, and then you took and you shot an arrow through the rose petals. It would seem like it happened like that. But if you broke it down, you'd have to see like one, it's actually going through one petal at a time. But it looks like it's happening like that. Our minds are so quick when it's in the act of perception that you can never actually see two things at once. Although it appears like you can. It just looks that way. And that's also illusion. So even and because some people would think, well, what about when I'm watching my morality, right? Like, you're keeping your book every 2 hours or something. And there's this in the back of your mind, there's this awareness of like, what am I doing or what am I thinking? But that would be, according to Majjhimika, that would be alternating. Quickly, hopefully, in the case of an ethical person. And maybe not so quickly, but a non-ethical person, right? But maybe a non-ethical person might be like in jail. A year later and go, maybe I shouldn't have murdered that person. Right? It's like, hopefully he pulls the gap. So that right before you do it, you're like, uh-oh, maybe I shouldn't kill this person. Maybe I shouldn't steal his money. But that's beside the point. Because even Lord Buddha said okay, well, first I'll go here. So here's the qualities of this mind, this element, this quality of the mind, that mind only is claiming, is that it is a separate part of your mind. It's a subject with no distinction of knower and known, and only focused inwardly. So they're trying to say that there's a part of our minds that is not trapped in duality, that is somehow aware of itself and turned inward at all times. This is like the self-existent, real mind, according to mind only. So, and that's always there, always directed inward. And they're saying, like, there's a part of the translation that's yin yang, like duality. They're saying it doesn't have duality. And in Buddhism, duality, right? It has different meanings, duality. But in this tonight, it means a separate knower and a separate knowee, right? So there isn't one. The knower and the thing it knows. They're saying that there's part of the mind that is just simply knowing itself, and only that. And we're like, well, wait a second, right? How can you be, you know, how can you be the one? How can you be the thing that's out there and simultaneously be the guy who's looking at the thing and actually be having that perception? It's impossible. And that's why they're saying, no, it's like it's void. It's void all the time. It's just there, it's void, and we're always looking at it. It's always there. We can always see this thing. This mind is always seeing itself. So they're saying, no, all duality is gone in that part of the mind. And they have to say that. All duality is gone. But the Buddha, who taught mind only, then pipes up and says, right, wait a minute, can the blade of a knife cut itself? Blade, right? So it's like, well, mind only, if what you're saying is true, then it would be possible to be like, you're cutting the bread and you got to be careful you don't cut the knife at the same time. Can the knife cut the knife? No. So Lord Buddha is saying, like, your Rangruk is the same concept. How can the mind see itself while it's seeing itself? While it's seeing something else? How can the mind be the thing which is seeing and the thing which is seen at the same time? Because they're saying that the self-perception of the mind is always in subject mode. There's no object. There's always in subject mode.
The karma can. When they talk about the karma can.
Well, no, it would have to be separate. Because if you're going to teach middle way, like if Lama were talking about karma can, he would be saying, like, there's an element, there's a mind, there's the you, right? Your whole perception, your mind, which cannot see itself and see an object at the same time, sees itself do things, but not at the same time. Right? So the karma cam is, if you took it, you see, it's way too tricky, because if you took the karma cam and you put it to mind only, then how could it function? Right? Because according to mind only, there's this side of your mind that is only subject, never, it only sees itself. Then how could it see something? How could, right?
Okay, yeah.
Right? But there's this notion in our minds that yeah, there is a mind that sees itself. There is this sense of me. That's what it must be. But then it would always be there and it would never change, would it? How could it, right? So the karmakam would have to be a product of something like that, because it couldn't be that specific. But the mind only has to come up with this idea, because they have to explain how they catch themselves in the illusion, even though they've already said, well, you can't. Even though they've already said to mind only, to middle way, you can't, because it's illusory. And then they said, well, okay, smarty pants, what are you saying? Well, we have this part that's not illusory, that's always seeing itself, that's there. And we're like, okay, so then I guess the knife can cut itself now, right? And so then mind only says, okay, if that's not really there, then how do you remember you saw the table? Right? The next morning, you think, last night I saw this table. Mr. Majumika, right? And then Majumika says, yeah, I saw the table. And they say, oh, you say I saw the table? Well, yeah.